are talking about motivation. Everything you need to know to be your own coach, your own cheerleader, and an honest to goodness self-starter. So let's dive in. If you can figure out how to be and have your own source of motivation, then you have the secret to a life well lived. You will not ever fall prey to humdrum, boring, rutted living, as long as you can always pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? We're going to do that by looking at your strengths, your focus, and your strategy. Let's start with your values, your ethics, your desires. These are going to be the things that motivate you the most. And you need to have a decent understanding of your ethics, your values, and your desires so that you can use that and funnel that into energy and motivation. All of this is your why. Why it matters to you, why it's important, enough to be on your to-do list. Let's be honest. Quickly moving on to your focus. When working to self-motivate, focus on your strengths, what you can bring to the endeavor, to the task, to the project. When thinking about our focus, it's important that it stays in a positive light to keep us out of dark thought alleys. We're going to be thinking about and focusing on the learning aspect. So all of the ways that you get to expand your education and or make or perfect a system, because it can easily be unmotivating to think that the reason that we're having to learn something is because we're not good enough or that we're not learning something fast enough. And these are really unmotivating thoughts. So constantly trying to be pepped up about the learning potential of the experience will only help keep you pretty motivated. When you think about maintaining motivation, think about focusing on small accomplishments instead of huge, long goals. Sometimes we can even look at things that are months to a year away and be worried or stressed about it. So focusing on small accomplishments is going to be the easiest way to maintain steam, especially if we're thinking about a long process, which goes into the last of your focuses. Focus on your long game phase, okay? This is a journey. It's not about the destination sometimes. And when you are prepared and you have your game face on, but your long game face, you're going to be much more persistent. You will have not just motivation, but your own little source of perseverance, because you know it is a long-term thing, a long game play. And it's really important to focus on how each step makes the journey so that we don't get bombarded with impatience, basically. So that is, in a nutshell, what we can try to adapt our focus to when thinking about being self-motivating. Moving on. Your strategy. Now we're going to be going into tricks, traps, and hacks of motivation. We're going to start with the atmosphere. You want to set everything up ahead of time as much as possible. These will make the moments in which you're craving and really kind of needing motivation less stressful, and you'll have a little bit more time to hopefully take a moment and get yourself into the mood, pepped up. Another part about your atmosphere. Think about taking a second to clear out and declutter the area around you, because that not only is a distraction, but it can really lead to this intangible feeling of overwhelm before you've even started something that might require motivation. Definitely get rid of any clutter or junk in the area and set the stage. This is going to be number 3 of the atmosphere. Create a really nice environment for yourself. Light a candle, put on some music, have a lamp, something, anything that's going to make the experience nicer, because it's a lot easier to stay motivated if you don't hate where you're at. Our next group of 3 for these tips, tracks, and hacks are people. Number 1, your muse. Really think about somebody who's constantly a source of inspiration for you. That person can really be used to keep you motivated and keep you remembering why it's important to do what you do. Whoever that muse is, have a picture of them, have a call with them, but definitely use them as a fountain of motivation. The second one in this group is going to be your community, which is very easy to find. In certain towns, there's meetups, and if your town doesn't have a meetup around the kind of thing you need motivation for, then Facebook has a group for absolutely everything, as well as different online coaches. They might have accountability, or they may be like brand and marketing coaches. A lot of the times they have their own groups. The third one in this group is a little on the fun side, because this is dealing with an imaginary person. Yes, pretend for just a moment with me like you are being interviewed into the future. Okay? You've done something so great that somebody is interviewing you about it. Are you ready to answer their question? Because there's only one. They're going to ask you, how did you get through such a difficult time? Now, really think for just a moment how your future self would answer that question. That's your answer for current times. Use that answer to keep you motivated, to keep you understanding why it's important to do what you're doing. That answer can be a constant source of inspiration, especially when something is a long process. Our next group of 3 is going to be about your approach. Answer the question, what is one small step you can make right now or today to keep consistent motivation? Notice the keywords there, small step and today/right now. Having a consistent engagement with the thing is going to be a much easier way to stay motivated than, say, taking a step back for 3 months and then trying to garner motivation. It's just not going to be as easy. So staying engaged as much as possible, even if it's just one small step. The next thing to consider is making one small tweak to keep things fresh. This could be as simple as adjusting a time frame where it's 5 or 10 minutes or a complete different time of the day that you approach the thing that needs motivation. Maybe it's where you're doing it. Maybe you don't have the ability to make one tweak. If so, this next one will be completely inapplicable. So if that is the case for you, then ignore this one, which is maybe completely overhaul your approach. And honestly, sometimes doing something completely different, looking at something in a completely different way, changing your strategy completely can be the biggest refresh and great for a source of heightened motivation. Like I said, if that's not an option, I understand. So in that case, consider setting boundaries around this time frame or thing that you need motivation for. This can be boundaries around distractions, boundaries around certain activities, boundaries around predominantly your time, predominantly your space, because you want to keep your space clear of negative energy. So sometimes that could lead to setting boundaries with people. If they're kind of hindering you from being motivated, then set that boundary. Our fourth and final group is a little bit on the unique side. So insert work ethic here. Basically, this kind of circles back around to your why, your ethics. Sometimes we really need to remember why our work ethic is important and how that actually has a lot to do with our character. Sometimes it's not a glorious job or it's not a great task. And when there's no glory in what we're doing, it can be really hard to be motivated. But you remember that you can take pride in absolutely everything you do. Every single thing you do is valuable. Whether or not sometimes it feels like society recognizes that, because there's a lot of jobs out there that don't get the recognition they deserve. And that can be hard to be motivated to execute tasks that way. Okay, so our last hack for motivation is going to be looking for trouble. And this sounds really negative, and I don't mean anticipating the worst. I just mean anticipate some setbacks, because when we do, it's a lot easier to stay motivated. When we're completely waylaid by things going wrong and we just like completely lose it and don't know how to keep going, that's really not good for motivation. And if we think about beforehand our plans B, C, D, all the way through sometimes W, I swear, it's just a little bit of empowerment so that we're not 100% wrapped up in everything having to go smoothly to maintain our motivation. So sometimes anticipating setbacks, knowing how to deal with them, or having an idea of how you would deal with them is going to be really important to maintaining your motivation. Let me know in the comments if one of these was helpful for you. I'll be back next week as we talk about boundaries. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.